Next to Taiwan, whose security fears were in focus earlier this year when Chinese President Xi Jinping declared reunification with the island is inevitable and that China reserves the right to use force if necessary. It was a blunt reminder for Taiwan from its larger neighbor China that has the second largest defense budget in the world and spent 150 billion euros on defense in 2018. But Taiwan, which de facto functions as an independent country, is responding, announcing plans to spend 3.2 billion euros to upgrade its air force. Speaking with DW, the Taiwanese foreign minister made clear that reunification with China is not an option. Here's more of that interview.
The People's Republic of China was founded 70 years ago, and for the past 7 decades, there have been 2 governments on either side of the Taiwan Strait. So how do you see relations right now?
The bilateral relationship is difficult to define. China maintains a threatening posture towards Taiwan while isolating the country from international organizations. At the same time, trade and business relations are closely intertwined. It's a very complicated relationship, and any attempt to present it in a simplified manner would neglect core problems. However, regardless of relations with China, Taiwan is determined to continue living in a society based on the democratic values that we are continually developing. This is the duty of every government. As Taiwan becomes more democratic, it can also be of significance for the development of China. This is because people in China will see that the current well-functioning Taiwanese model could be conceivable for China in the future. Taiwan has never committed to the One China policy, nor have we accepted the 1992 consensus. We are a democracy, and it is advisable to listen to voices from Taiwan before discussing how our relationship with Beijing will develop in the future. Surveys make it clear that reunification with China is not an option for the Taiwanese people.
And joining us for analysis on what these comments mean is journalist Florence Duchongi from Hong Kong. Florence, good to see you. Now, you've reported from Taiwan and the wider region for a number of years. So when Joseph Wu says in an exclusive interview to Deutsche Welle that reunification with China is not an option, is he setting Taiwan up for a direct clash with China?
Well, I'd start by saying that there is a history of provocative talks between both sides of the Taiwan Straits, especially when the independent party is in power in Taiwan, which is the case now and was already the case between 2000 and 2008. So there may be a level of speaking for impact and to please his domestic audience here. But Joseph Wu, as a foreign affairs minister, knows very well that a clash with China would be an absolute disaster for Taiwan and diplomatically for China as well. And as a diplomat, I don't think that's what he means. Instead, precisely because he knows that a direct clash with China is to be avoided at any cost, he wants to draw a line that at the other end of the spectrum of options, China must somehow factor in the reality that Taiwan has been de facto independent from the mainland for the last 70 years. And remember as well that before that, Taiwan was under Japanese control for 50 years. So in a way, he's setting his own no-go zone, saying on the one hand that the Taiwanese people may be keen on further rapprochement, but at the same time staying clear and very far away indeed from reunification.
Wu also suggested in this interview that the Taiwanese model of democracy could be a model perhaps for China. What is he trying to do there?
Yeah, well, Taiwan is surely very proud to be the only Chinese place in the world, basically, with a fully fledged democracy, though they still call it a young democracy. It's about 20 years old and it has all kinds of issues. But I remember that back about 10 years ago, when Chinese tourists started to be allowed to visit Taiwan in large numbers, many of them would not go on their planned tours, but rather stay in their hotel rooms to watch TV, watching debates at the Legislative Yuan Parliament, where lawmakers have a reputation for pretty unruly behavior, and where several parties, of course, would hold very different views, and the Chinese tourists could understand all this. So it seemed at the time that the Chinese tourists were fascinated with this form of government. Having said that, the propaganda in China is so strong at the moment to tell people that Western-style democracy is not suited for China, that I honestly doubt that, at least at this point in time, Taiwan could pretend to offer an alternative model to communist China.
Journalist Florence Dishanji speaking to us from Hong Kong.